Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson. Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We have a big show with a big week at the movies, with every review coming from theatrical releases this week. This week on the show, a remake of the 1990s sleeper hit House Party, fall in love with the grumpiest man in America in the Tom Hanks comedy A Man Called Otto, survive together or die because the crash was only the beginning in the Gerard butler thriller Plane. The War of the Angels have come to Earth in The Devil Conspiracy. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows to watch a roar and a bursting of flame. The Movie Wire podcast.
There it is.
With just meet people like me.
The podcast for hot and
The Wire.
And here we go.
Otto, played by Tom Hanks, is a grump who's given up on life following the loss of his wife and wants to end it all. Until a young family moves across the street, he meets his match in quick-witted Marisol, played by Mariana Trevino, leading to a friendship that will turn his perspective upside down in A Man Called Otto.
Hey, back.
What is he doing?
Parallel parking.
Parallel to what?
The whole neighborhood is falling apart these days.
Get out of here.
Nothing works now that you're gone.
I brought you some food.
Okay, bye.
Are you always this unfriendly?
I am not unfriendly.
Okay, you're like a warm cuddle.
What is that?
Looks like he's yours now, Otto.
You're not taking over my bed.
You think you have to do everything on your own, but no one can.
I can't stand watching one idiot try to teach another how to drive. It's lesson time.
Thank you.
Clutch in and brake. Brake. The car is stopped.
I almost hit the car.
It's all right. It's a hybrid. My life was black and white before Sonia.
She's always gonna be with you, Otto. My father used to smile like that.
I'm not smiling.
Exactly.
I have a cat.
A Man Called Otto is based on the 2012 novel called A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman and was originally adapted to screen in a 2015 Swedish film, penned and directed by Hans Holm. Now, Tom Hanks has taken on some roles lately that you can tell is really challenging his range, and roles that could be a little out of his norm, from playing Elvis's blood-sucking agent in Baz Luhrmann's Elvis to where he has to sing and dance as Geppetto to the dumpster fire of a movie, Pinocchio. Now, for one that is viewed as one of the nicest guys in Hollywood, has to play a grumpy old man, compared to the 2015 film, which is available to stream at this time of review on Amazon Prime Video, which was nominated for 2 Oscars, including Best Foreign Language Film and Best Achievement in Makeup and Hairstyling. The 2023 version is determined to recreate Magic in the Bottle for the second time. This go around, instead of our original grumpy old man Ove, played by Rolf Lassgård, who pulled it off beautifully in the original, we now have Mr. Nice Guy in Hollywood to try and fill the role. And now we have to picture him as this grumpy male Karen. And between his nice guy reputation and growing up with the numerous roles we have all seen him in, he has been a big part of our lives in film. This is one of his biggest and challenging roles to date, to convince the audience is that he is this grumpy old man. Upfront and honest, I was not a fan of Hank's performance in Elvis nor Pinocchio. He stepped into a role out of his element and it showed in his performances. But I will give him kudos for challenging himself with these roles. But the big question is, can he convince an audience that he is a believable grumpy old man? And the answer is yes, but with a catch. That I will get into in just a second. Hanks does an admirable job here that at times can be a little off balance and feels like the filmmakers are holding back and playing it too safe, and tend to play more to the consumer feel-good likability using more comedic situations that at times it can feel a little artificial and forced. There are times this works, and at times it makes it harder during serious scenes involving suicide attempts to really bring the audience back to reality. But I am torn between this because here is the catch. The film was directed by Mark Forster, whose previous films have been Monsters Ball, Stranger Than Fiction, Finding Neverland, The Kite Runner, Quantum of Solace, and Christopher Robin, with some unique contrast to his style with a couple like Machine Gun Preacher and World War Z. One thing he has shown with common theme is his forte in character direction. You can really see this shine throughout the film, and he is the perfect director to direct Hanks in this, to really pull him in or pull him back. There is a significant difference in Hanks' performance in this compared to the awkward performances of his last two films. With Forster partnered with Hanks, the two really work out a true likability of the character, even when Hanks is at his grumpiest, and it is supported by a truly honest script that Otto is in an enormous amount of grief and pain. That doesn't justify the behavior of Otto, but put us into the shoes of him and utilizing the don't judge a book by its cover. The script introduces character interactions with Hanks. Some interactions are extremely rude by Otto, but played as humorous, and the other characters try to greet him with open arms to show there is more to Otto than what we fully don't understand. The subtle character hints are brilliantly placed here to truly ensure we are holding our opinions to ourselves until the filmmakers can reveal more of their narrative. Now, this adaptation was written by David McGee, who has penned the screenplays for Mary Poppins Returns, Life of Pi, and Finding Neverland. And though David McGee doesn't really go into more depth of the character of Otto emotionally, as we saw from the 2015 Ovi, he goes more for the consumer likability versus more of an in-depth, rawer feel, which in most cases I absolutely hate it when studios and writers do this, because they usually end up as bubblegum for the mind that loses its flavor in under 5 minutes. But I have to say, this is one of those rare cases that it actually works. In no way, shape, or form am I saying this is superior than the 2015 version, because it's not. But there is enough here to like it on its own level for trying to separate itself, and it is very successful in this. The movie gives us multiple feelings, as if we were watching Simon Cowell or Gordon Ramsay go off on an honest critiquing rant. Then you see another scene where they show some human emotion of caring. A Man Called Otto plays on this successful strategy of manipulation of the human mind of emotion, and even I couldn't help but smile and really care what happens to Otto. There are times I wanted to know more of his past to really show me a glimpse of how he got to that point, and more of a discovery into his relationship with his wife in his youth. The film gives us brief flashbacks, but it's not really enough to truly discover who he is versus just giving us enough to move the plot along. And that's where the film loses focus and becomes one of the movies where the endings drags out that could have ended in multiple places, as it doesn't know how to end. Whereas at that time, it could have been spent discovering more of Otto's upbringing as an explanation to a lot of his behavior. Because when the film gives us a glimpse of Otto's past, he is still a very serious person, and more details on his relationship with his wife in flashbacks, and other than spoken words, we don't really discover more than that. Now, before I give my rating, I kind of just want to give a heads up. The trailers to this movie make it seem like it's a light-hearted comedy with a grumpy Tom Hanks, and if you are planning on taking your children, my best advice is to watch this movie first. There are some serious adult topics in this, including attempted suicide, that the previews don't show you, and it could be some conversations that parents aren't ready to have or kids don't want to discover from a movie. In the screening I went to, there were multiple kids in the theater. Some parents took their kids out, and some were parenting them during the movie of what they were witnessing. So before you take your children, please do your research, screen the movie before, or at least be ready to have a conversation before and after the movie. A Man Called Otto is not without its flaws, and it isn't on par to the 2015 original, but the film shows great examples of redemption after loss, will put a smile on your face, but at the same time will hurt your heart with an overwhelming sense of satisfaction due to the likability of the performances and characters, the brisk pacing, and even though there's a grumpy old man and we await what he's going to say next, we are met with more positivity by the supporting cast to really give us a glimpse into how humanity should be instead of the way it's portrayed on social media now. With a smile on my face while writing this review, I'm giving A Man Called Otto a solid 3 stars. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out my reviews on previous episodes for movies that are available to stream, rent, or buy. Now available. Wonderful surprises await you, all when you visit the Ralph Fiennes exclusive restaurant in The Menu, which served its way to 3 stars. The sequel to 2019's murder mystery brings the fun in another whodunit in The Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery which solved the mystery to bring a 3-star review. A pair of U.S. Navy fighter pilots risked their lives during the Korean War and become some of the Navy's most celebrated wingmen that received 2.5 stars. Say hola to his little friends in the sequel to the 2011 DreamWorks animated film, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which wished its way to 3 stars. And finally, one of my favorite films of the year and now a Golden Globe winner of Best Picture, and is one that I predict will come out with the most Oscar nominations, is The Banshee of Inisherin, which received a perfect 4 stars. You can find those reviews on my previous episodes, and just a reminder, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit follow or subscribe and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. And make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. Also a reminder, if you haven't taken a listen yet, make sure you tune into my last episode where I share with you my top 10 most favorite films of 2022. Some will come as a surprise, and those of you that listen to the show often won't be too shocked on my top couple. So make sure you tune in to that. And if you are around the Seattle area, it is that time of year again where we have the Snohomish Film Festival coming up. You can now submit your film into the festival by going to www.filmfreeway.com/Snohomish Film Festival. It's going to be a great year, and I cannot wait to see your movie. And finally, now I want to introduce you to a podcast that those of you that listen to my show know I love these guys. I have even appeared on their show, and that is the Casting Views podcast with Dan and Lou. These two gents cover a wide range of topics that are incredibly entertaining. Make sure you follow and subscribe to their show. Now let's hear from Dan and Lou now.
I'm Dan.
I'm Lou, and together we are Casting Views.
An uncle and nephew chatting on random topics, some heavy, some fun, but we aim to amuse.
Don't miss out, don't delay. Subscribe to Casting Views today.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Good Pods.
A powerful biotech company has breakthrough technology that allows it to clone history's most influential people. Behind the company is a cabal of Satanists who steal the Shroud of Turin, putting them in possession of Jesus Christ's DNA, the ultimate offering to the devil. Hoping to save mankind, Archangel Michael soon comes to Earth to stop the devil's conspiracy once and for all. In the new thriller, The Devil's Conspiracy.
The War of Angels. Michael defeated Lucifer and bound him in hell.
Laura! How's my art historian?
Good! You wanted to show me something?
The Shroud of Christ, the world's most famous object and the most sacred. I believe art tells the story of our past and hints at our future. Lucifer would have consumed us all if Michael hadn't stopped him. Pray he never finds his way out.
Stop! He might choose her.
Sir Michael, take my body. Use it to defeat Satan.
Michael, kill him.
You're no priest. Father Marconi's dead. I'm just borrowing him for a bit.
Lucifer will finally have a worthy home.
It's why they stole the Shroud. They need its DNA.
What's in me? In you, Jesus. A better Jesus.
Have mercy.
This is my responsibility.
Hell shall come to Earth. Michael! I will return to you as your God.
Lucifer!
Have you ever heard the song of angels?
Now the concept is intriguing, the cast is decent, and the first act has some really good ideas and integrates the song that I love, which is Send Me an Angel by Real Life, to give us a good cheesy 80s feel. The song plays as we have our archangel Michael in human form driving on an open road towards his enemy, which would be his mission. But sadly, this was far as the movie got to anything close to watchable. If the devil made a movie, it would have been this one, because sitting through this movie was absolute hell. Once we get through the cool premise in the beginning of a biotech company led by Dr. Lauren, played by Brian Caspi, where he introduces children up for auction that have been cloned from known figures throughout history's DNA, such as the artist Michelangelo, which started the bidding at $10 million. But the film is in such a hurry to get to the meat and potatoes of the battle between good and evil, we never really explore this other than quick mentions and the auction scene of the children. The filmmakers just kind of throw this in there to give a lazy explanation of how they can get their hands on Jesus Christ's DNA. And this was a dramatic shame, because this piece of what was presented was pretty cool, and the filmmakers didn't even realize this would end up being the only concept of the movie that was interesting. You can feel the filmmakers' eagerness to really get into the main points of the plot that you can visibly see the movie skate by on everything else. The Devil's Conspiracy was written by Ed Allen, in which this was his first writing attempt, and in fairness, if you take out the rush plot points and consider this was his first writing attempt, this isn't bad. It's not great, and as a matter of fact, it isn't that good either. It kind of just stands on its own as a meh category. There are shines of light in his writing when he is focused on the characters, but the words come across as mere cardboard. But for a first attempt, it's at least an A for effort from Ed Allen. Then we have Nathan Frankowski, who directed this film, in which you would think this would be his first directing attempt, but sadly he doesn't get to use that excuse here. Frankowski is more known for smaller projects made for TV, made for streaming, with his most notable credit being 2008's Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed, a Ben Stein documentary. Now, other than the missed opportunities on the writing and rushing through the missed opportunities of becoming interesting, the biggest problem the Devil Conspiracy has is in its direction, almost to the point I don't even know where to start. The feel of the film was treated like Frankowski just figured this would be another straight-to-TV or streaming kind of deal, and put no real creative effort into trying to envision this one on the big screen. And at times, it's not even suitable for a streaming movie. The most noticeable piece of it is that the film just looks ugly and grim, with no contrast to any set or scene change. Everything comes across with heavy grays and blues. There is no evidence other than IMDb that anybody was in charge of lighting, or if Frankowski purposely wanted to have the same tone for the entire runtime. Either way, the tone does not work. When you take out the dull dialogue with no purpose of where it wants to go and put in a darker, heavy on the grays, blacks, and blues, the filmmakers almost do this on purpose to give you permission to take a nap during the film. I can almost bet that this was their intention, so nobody can witness the rest of the movie. And if you are unfortunately unable to fall asleep during this film, The Devil's Conspiracy does something unique. The more the film progresses and focuses on the devil's plan, and just when you think it can't get any worse, the movie almost makes a trade with our Lucifer on screen, played by Joe Anderson, where the closer he gets to walking the earth again, the further into hell the audience goes. And as I speak about the worse it gets, I'm mostly talking about when the film decides to attempt special effects towards the end. We have demons that look and move like something they found in the dumpster behind Sesame Street from the early 80s, with movements that you can literally see the prosthetic suits jiggle. But even if that's not enough, there's a scene where Lucifer speaks through the human's mouth, and I won't mention a name for the sake if you actually do go see the film, and not to give anything away. This cast member has to ad-lib what Lucifer says, and it is the worst ad-libbing and the cringiest thing I have seen on screen in a long time. Now, usually I would mention the cast as my review goes along, but after watching the final result, I'm sure the cast wishes nobody would ever read their real names in regards to this film. But in fairness, the performances are fine here with the exception of just a couple. The film stars Alice Orr Ewing as Laura, who gets captured by the satanic cult, Joe Doyle as our priest father Marconi, and an underrated actor that I wish can just get a breakout role and a script and stop getting involved into these types of movies, and that's Peter Mensah. And let me be clear, this cast does their best with the plate of gruel of a script they have in front of them, and you can tell they were sold on the premise, not the written material. The Devil's Conspiracy is beyond beyond bad. It's not entertaining. It's not thought-provoking. The action is amateur. This is a film that has no idea what it wants to do, nor what it wants to be, and makes it apparent it just wants to shoot a movie as quickly as possible to get paid. It is also extremely frustrating that there was a spark of great ideas in the beginning half of the movie, and these ideas were completely ignored the rest of the runtime. This is one of the laziest films I've seen on the big screen in a great while, and to kick off 2023, this will be my first pick as one of the worst movies of the year. I'm giving The Devil's Conspiracy 1 star. Aspiring club promoters and best friend Damon and Kevin are barely keeping things together. Out of money, down on their luck, and they're about to lose the roofs over their heads. They need cash fast. They soon decide to host the party of the year at an exclusive mansion, which just so happens to belong to no one other than NBA superstar LeBron James in the remake of the 1990 film of the same name, House Party.
Come on, get your lazy ass up.
All right, I'm up already.
That's what you get staying out partying all night.
I'm a promoter. I'm working. I got like 18,000 followers.
You know who got followers? Jesus. Take your rude ass to work.
You just cursed. What would Jesus say?
Jesus would say, shut the fuck up. This is my house.
What you know about here, where it's private jet stick?
See you late as usual. We need to clean this place. I done got all day.
Oh, ew, what the fuck?
Ooh, that couch just fluffed itself. Whose crib is this, man? Steve Jobs? Steve Jobs is dead, fool. I mean, his house died. Yeah! Dude got Miami shit, Cleveland shit, LA shit. Damn, pick a city, bro. Oh my God. We in LeBron's house. LeBron who? James!
Hey there.
Go!
You are one handsome motherfucker.
He got a hologram of himself just to give him compliments.
You handled the decision to go to Miami perfectly.
Nah, that's cap. I need 10 G's by next week. I gotta pay for my daughter's school. Bro, they on vacation. How about we throw the party in the king's house? We gonna invite all the celebrities. We can make 10 times the money. We can send Destiny to preschool, college, whatever. Tonight is our last shot. Looks like we up out the house.
Hi, I see you there. How are you?
It's a white man.
Oh, shit! Oh, shit! You're going to jail, Kim.
Hi, I'm Peter. Is LeBron home? By the way, Black Lives Matter.
They do.
I posted 2 squares on my Instagram. Respect.
This is a really bad idea.
I wouldn't do something like this unless I was desperate. Shit cracking, bro. Have you seen how out of control this party is? Shit, we done fucked up the koala. You good? What the fuck just happened?
Your hairline is perfect. Anyone who says otherwise is just jealous.
This guy.
Now, I can't even count how many times I've watched the original House Party growing up. Throughout the 90s, it seemed to play all the time on TV. What I remember really attracting me to always want to watch it when it came onto TV was the chemistry of Kid and Play, played by Christopher Reid and Christopher Martin, along with a real sense of chaos with an out-of-control night. The original idea knew how to crescendo a plot into the point of utter chaos, with the characters that we really wanted to see succeed, and it was naturally funny. Now comes, of course, another remake that takes everything that made the first one special and flips it around to become a polar opposite and more of a commercial to LeBron James than an actual movie. The movie stars Jacob Latimore as Kevin and Tosin Cole as Damon, who replace Kid and Play in this remake, who again are down on their luck house cleaners and need to throw a party to get some quick cash. Lo and behold, they discover they are cleaning LeBron James's mansion, so their first thought is to throw a massive party at his home, which ignores pure logic in this plot that I will get into in just a minute. Now, the first issue that we have is our 2 leads. They are so uninteresting and boring as they deliver their lines. It's almost like they are reading from cue cards, which adds to the lack of chemistry between them. The script doesn't really give us a lot of time to get to know the two's friendship other when they work together, and then we get right into the party. House Party was written by Jamal Allori, whose biggest credit is a writer on the show Atlanta, and the brother of Donald Glover, Stephen Glover, who was also a writer on Atlanta as well, but not much other than that. And the writing writing shows in this, especially with the lack of funny material, which makes the film feel very segmented on its situational comedy. We are presented with a potentially funny situational scene, and it is so poorly executed with its comedic timing and the cardboard delivery, we just have to kind of give out a sympathy laugh. Earlier in the review, I talked about the logic of this film, and normally if a movie can prove it's funny and self-identify, I would ignore this logic, but this film doesn't, so I'm going to get right into the logic. We have these two house cleaners that are at LeBron James's house that cooks up a plan to throw a party at his mansion with the assumption that this famous millionaire athlete doesn't have at least one camera anywhere. They also email all of LeBron's contacts with no thought that somebody might notify him. And let's not forget the use of smartphones and social media during the event would eventually reach back to these two. Now, some of these things the film acknowledges, kind of, but with no depth whatsoever. And this is where the film really lacked from what the original did, which have that sense of chaos and sense of danger. And we are waiting for the film to use these elements to even create a situation to lead to the chaos in our current times, but it completely ignores it. There is so much material here with social media cameras to make this remake relevant today, but it does nothing with it. Now, when we get into the second half of the movie, this is where it has some elements I wish we would have seen the absurdity throughout. One scene in particular is where we see Kevin and Damon leave the party to go to an Illuminati cult meeting, where we see a few pleasant cameos and an absurdity that should have been the theme for the entire movie to really elevate that remake to stand on its own. House Party was directed by Carl Maddock, in which this is his first major motion picture. He usually specializes in music videos, and it shows. Where we have our best shots is during the party scenes, and that's it. He can obviously set an environment to really engulf the viewer into his setting, but his character direction is non-existent. His engagement into the normal conversation seems like he's taking the first take and saying, "That looks okay, next scene." But I do have to give credit. If you've seen the previews, you would notice that there is a koala bear in this movie, and I want to give praise to the drugged out koala bear, even though it is a poorly crafted animatronic performance, and it can come across as limited and stiff and cut off too soon. He is the best part of the movie. But again, the filmmakers banked too much on this koala bear to gain most of the laughs, and they even limited a lot of that. There is no real focus to this movie. It is frustrating to watch of why they would even do a remake to the 1990 film if not making it relevant for today. For being a comedy, I maybe laughed a few times, and the times I did laugh I've already seen in the trailer. The only reason I'm about to give it more than a generous review that it deserves is that the scene of when Kevin and Damon are at the cult party. Their performances stayed cardboard, but this scene was a lot of fun and it had a lot of good cameos. But this is the only good scenes of the movie is when they go outside of the house party, and there's something wrong with that. House Party is a very stiff, generic movie across the board from the delivery, acting, pacing, and never really lets loose to truly enjoy the party. For a movie about a party, it misses the mark to the point I think I would have had a better time being sober at a church bingo night than sitting through this film again. There is absolutely no rewatch value to this, nor anything memorable. This is an obvious attempt at a LeBron James plug and a party I would have used my kids as an excuse to leave early. I'm giving House Party 1.5 stars. It gets so hard to keep track and even have time to read all the trending topics on the web. Now there's a new app to help with all of those problems. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science, to Bitcoin. You can even follow Kardashian. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you out loud. And guess what? They have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. The Movie Wire is now a featured podcast on the Newsly app. Download and use Newsly for free now. The link will be in the description of this episode. You can also use one of my promo codes that you will find in the description as well to get you a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling, start listening, download Newsly today. A pilot finds himself caught in a war zone after he's forced to land his commercial aircraft during a terrible storm in the new action thriller Plane.
Captain Torrance, Flight Commander. How can I help you?
Fugitive extradition.
Oh, is he dangerous? What did he do?
Homicide 15 years ago.
I don't want to scare the rest of the passengers.
I'm afraid you're stuck with us, Captain.
Get him on board. Let's have a good flight. We're cutting right through the top of the storm. Listen, keep everybody in their seats, no exceptions, all right?
I need everyone to have their seatbelts securely fastened.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. Trailblazer 119, we are dark. Is anyone near guard, damn it?
We're gonna hit. We're gonna hit.
They went down somewhere in the Jolo Island cluster. It's run by separatists and militias. The Filipino army won't even go there anymore. The clock is ticking. Every minute matters. We can count those minutes in lives, lost or saved.
Guys, wait, get back. We don't know who it is. We don't know who it is. Get back.
Listen carefully. This is an emergency. I'm Captain Brody Torrance.
I like this guy.
Name, country. Maxwell Carver, England.
Name, country.
I gotta go after them. My passengers, my responsibility. I'm gonna need your help.
You're gonna need this.
Former military or something?
You could say that.
Then why'd they lock you up?
No one cares what really happened. But they say redemption can be found in the most unusual places. If you do this, you'll probably never see your family again.
What about their families? I have a daughter, and I have every intention of making it home. They're gonna come at us with everything they've got.
We're getting off this island.
There is a scene in the beginning of Plane where we have our pilot Captain Brody Torrance played by Gerard Butler and co-pilot Deli played by Yonsen An who are getting ready for takeoff. An employee comes into the cockpit and gives the go-ahead for takeoff, and then he asks the two pilots if they have any questions before they take off. Captain Torrance whips out his tablet and he pulls up a massive storm in the middle of their flight path and asks simply, "What about this big storm?" In which the camera focuses on the tablet and it shows a massive red blimp. This employee pretty much gives the captain a, you'll be okay, and then he exits the scene. This gives us a sneak peek at the realism this film seeks out to accomplish. Now, I have to say it's been a while since we've had an action movie that asks you to shut up, don't ask questions, and turn your brain off and let the movie dance for your pure entertainment. There is absolutely nothing that is realistic nor makes sense in this film, and as the scenes get more and more absurd and away from reality, I felt my brain falling numb and giving into this silliness of it all. Now, Plane is directed by Jean-Francois Wichet, and the film is right up his alley with previous works as Assault on Precinct 13 and Bloodfather. Now, the scripts were penned by Charles Cumming and B-movie actor J.P. Davis, who wrote the recent film The Contractor starring Chris Pine. And Charles Cumming, this is his first writing credit. This is the part of the review where I say what a big surprise with the low-budget director, unexperienced writers, that we get a film like Plane. But I have to say, if you go into the movie with low expectations, now when I say low, I'll give you an example. You haven't had a TV, nor have you been to the movies for over 25 years, and you decide to make a special trip to the theater, and Plane is the only movie playing at this theater. Those are the expectations you go into it with. If you keep that into consideration, you might find the movie somewhat okay, but even that is up for debate. But with Wichet's Cumming and Davis's credit based on their previous works, this movie is a drastic improvement from what they have either directed or written in the past. While Plane has a predictable plot and dialogue that feels like it came from a high school film student, Wichet does give a lot of things right in his direction in the first half of the movie. He does have some engaging shots, but the problem is during the second half where his atmosphere in the jungle is his canvas, but he doesn't know what to paint, and this shows how honest and generous he is with the camera. The camera shots are all over the place, and sometimes, usually in the right movie, this can be be useful, but not when Richet captures every gunshot and shooting the camera around to as many angles as he can. It is very chaotic, and this is where the audience can see a lot of these improbable shots and scenes where it becomes unbelievable. Richet did a great job on the basics where it was a small setting in a plane, but right when he gets out in the open is where we really see his vulnerabilities. We have this great secluded but beautiful setting, and he doesn't take advantage of the truly dangerous environment or situation these passengers are in. Richet ignores the seclusion element and wants to include just segmented action scenes and up-close shots on Gerard Butler with no reason to. There's no change of emotion or reactions from our captain during the entire runtime, with the exception of one scene towards the end. And when we do get action scenes, it's so poorly paced and choreographed, it's absolutely boring to watch. The film gives an artificial feeling of fun with quick camera shots and pretty on-point sound editing to keep us engaged and attempting to distract us from the main focal point of what's on screen. Now, I could be taking this film way too seriously. This isn't an obvious attempt of just being a check your minds at the door kind of film, but it makes itself so obvious on what it's trying to do, it's so hard not to notice the flaws. It's like having a minor stain on your living room wall and you never noticed it until somebody points it out, and then that's all you can see. There have been straight to video or straight to streaming Bruce Willis films that have executed better than Plane does. Plane is a movie that should have been self-aware to itself to really have some fun with itself if this is the route it wanted to go. But we have an overconfidence here from the director and the writers that had a good concept, and you can tell their confidence lie in the concept and not the substance. Plane takes every shortcut in the book, but I will say that Gerard Butler does do a fantastic job given the keto diet type of a script this film has. He still has a likable presence on screen. Most of the cast we see shared that same benefit, but again, we don't get to explore any of the characters because the film is too focused on moving itself along and just trying to get through the runtime. Even when our Captain Torrance teams up with convicted felon pastor Louis Gaspari, played by Mike Coulter, when they are teamed up, it's a wonderful chemistry, but it barely taps the surface. There are so many characters in this film that teases likability but never slows down to really focus on anything. That was the most frustrating part. Plane starts off as a thrill ride when we are invited into a secluded environment such as the plane, but once the plane goes down, so does the entire movie. But for what it's worth, it is one of those movies that will entertain while you are watching and will be a good lunch or dinner conversation to poke fun at the so many unpractical things that happen during its runtime. Plane is a complete crash and burn. I'm giving this mess of a movie 1.5 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. Again, thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show your support by following me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. Until next week, do me a favor, make sure you stay for after the credits to show your respect for those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film, and make sure you support your local movie theaters.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show, or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we will see you at the movies.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.